Welcome to Living the Spiral. This is a place to slow down, take a breath, and listen to the rhythms moving through your life. Here we explore astrology, human design, the I Ching, and elemental ancestral wheels of the year from cultures around the world. These are old maps and living languages that help us sense where we are in time, what is asking to unfold, and how we belong to something far larger than any single moment. In each episode, we trace patterns in the sky and in the body. We weave myth with lived experience, intuition with practice, and the personal with the collective. Living the Spiral is about learning how to move with change instead of pushing against it. About meeting transitions with curiosity, integrating polarities, and remembering that every season carries its own powerful wisdom. When you begin to listen to the cycles, life starts to feel more connected, more meaningful, and more alive. I'm your host, Allison Dale, and this is Living the Spiral podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to Living the Spiral. This is your Gemini season horoscopes for rising sign, and this is part 2 of my Gemini season overview. I did a first part that goes through the 6 human design gates of Gemini season that the sun transits through during the season, micro seasons of Gemini, to get a little bit of an insight into how the human design wheel intersects with the zodiac. I also talk about the major aspects and transits that are happening within Gemini season. So go ahead and listen to that as well if you would like a larger overview. I was going to put this all on one podcast, but it ended up being a little bit long. So I'm going to start separating out the horoscopes. Then you can jump ahead in the show notes. There's the timestamp for when your rising sign begins. You can also listen to all of them or any of them, your sun sign, your moon sign. If you identify with a specific sign, if you have a Venus or Mars or any of the outer planets in one of the signs, you can also get some insights about that sign as well. But this is based on rising sign if you're just going to listen to one. If you don't know your rising sign, you can look it up at astro.com with your birth time. There's lots of places online to look up your birth chart. I'll be adding one to my website at Hearth and Spiral soon to be able to pull a chart and get some reports there, but that's coming in the not too distant future. I just want to mention that rising sign horoscopes are more accurate than sun sign horoscopes because they reflect your actual house structure in the chart, which is where the action shows up in your lived experience. And so the rising sign was the sign that was coming up over the horizon when you were born, which sets up where all of the different astrological houses are in the chart. So this season's new moon is in Gemini, and Uranus has just moved into Gemini. So wherever Gemini falls in your chart, you're in a multi-year revolution here. So these horoscopes speak to this season, but they also start to touch on what the next 7 years with Uranus and Gemini might be inviting as well. All right, Aries rising. For Aries rising, Gemini falls in your 3rd house, which is the house of communication, your local environment, your siblings, and your everyday conversations and everyday mind. So Uranus has been waking this area up, and your whole relationship to how you think and how you speak and how you take in information is really in the middle of a significant upgrade right now. This Gemini season, the invitation is to let yourself think in genuinely new ways, communicate in your local environment in new ways. You don't have to organize your thoughts the way you always have, and you don't have to communicate through the same channels you ever have before. Might be time to introduce a new social media platform or get off of the social media entirely. It's up to you. The Uranus Cazimi here at the beginning of the Gemini season might bring a flash of insight about how you use your voice and what you truly want to say in your own words to the people who matter to you. There's a Venus-Jupiter conjunction on June 9th, and that lights up your 4th house, Cancer, which brings some warmth and sweetness to your home and family sphere. This is a moment where you can really nourish the people closest to you and nourish your heart space and your womb space, and tend to your domestic roots. And then finally, the Sagittarius full moon at the end of May 31st is going to be illuminating your 9th house. And your 9th house is all about big picture thinking, philosophy, long distance travel, higher education and academia. And so this is a moon that will highlight what truth is really willing to be spoken out loud. It highlights the communication that you're doing in the local space, in the local realm with neighbors, and also how your voice is reaching larger audiences. And the new moon in Gemini on June 15th is a seeding moment for how you communicate in the world. Again, how you interact with siblings, what projects and conversations or piece of writing wants to begin, how you're marketing yourself, how you're talking about what it is that you do. There's some seeds planted there on June 15th. Taurus rising. Gemini rules your 2nd house, Taurus, and this is the house of money, values, resources, and self-worth. And Uranus will be moving through this place in your chart for the next 7 years. So your relationship to security and stability is going to be thoroughly revolutionized and liberated. This can feel a bit destabilizing, as Uranus transits always can, if you've built a sense of safety on fixed structures, as many of us have. So the invitation over these coming years with Uranus in your 2nd house is to reorient how you view security and think about security as something that comes from your adaptability and your awareness to the present moment, rather than from keeping things exactly as they have always been. In the beginning of Gemini season, the Uranus cazimi could bring some surprising information about your finances, or it could bring a flash of clarity about what you truly value deep down. The 2nd house is often related to money, but it can also be about our values and what we place value on beyond the material realm. So pay attention to what comes up in the beginning of the season as far as your values and what it is that you value. The Mars-Pluto square on May 25th is landing in your chart with a little bit of weight because Mars is in your own sign in your 1st house of Taurus, and Pluto is going to be in your 10th house of career and public life. So there might be some friction between what you want to hold on to and what the larger structure of your life is demanding, and a bit of tension between yourself and how you're publicly perceived. So this might be a moment to get really clear about what you're building toward and how your personal self-expression feeds into the larger collective. The new moon in Gemini on June 15th is going to be an initiatory seeding moment for your material life, as it's in your 2nd house. So you can think about, with intentionality, what new relationship to resources and money and your own self-worth wants to begin here. So planting seeds on that new moon on June 15th about your finances and about your sense of values. Oh, Gemini rising, this is your season. We are in Gemini season, and here we are. So the sun is in your 1st house. In the 1st house is your body, your identity, your self-expression, how you wear yourself on your own sleeve. And Uranus has just entered your 1st house, which means that you and how you present, how you feel in your body, your sense of self is quite literally being rewired right now. So how you carry yourself and what lights you up might be shifting. You might have some lightning bolts of electricity that reveal something new that wants to come into form through your personhood. And of course, this can feel disorienting. I always think of Uranus as the great disruptor, but also the great liberator. So it can also feel a bit electric in your body. You definitely might feel like a different version of yourself than you were even a few months ago. And you might surprise yourself with how you dress, what comes out of your mouth, the people that you want to be around. And this is what Uranus does. Uranus strips away who you thought you were and shows you who you're turning into. So it's a powerful time for you, Gemini rising. The Uranus cazimi on May 22nd, that is falling right in your 1st house. And this is a moment where that electric Uranus activity is illuminated by the heart of the sun. So it could be a big moment of self-revelation. And I encourage you to think about that May 22nd date and the days around it and really write down what comes through for you. The new moon in Gemini on June 15th is also particularly significant for you, as it'll be a first house new moon, which is a moment of new beginnings surrounding your personhood, your personality, the way you appear, the way you show yourself to the world. So this new moon will really help you plant seeds of intention for how you want to launch yourself into this world in this new reality. And then the Venus-Jupiter conjunction in Cancer is going to be lighting up your second house. And that conjunction is happening on June 9th. So pay attention to that date, circle that date on the calendar. It is going to bring a sense of abundance around your resources and your self-worth and your body. So as you're having all these changes in your first house, you can take a moment on June 9th to let yourself receive and feel a certain expansion and harmony within your self-worth and how you are supporting yourself as well. For Cancer rising, this season falls in your 12th house. So Cancer risings are having their 12th house season between May 20th and June 20th. And this is the house of solitude, the house that we can't really see from the first house. And so it's a house of hidden things, the unconscious and subconscious. It's a house of spiritual retreat and connection with the larger interconnectedness of the world. And this is the most interior area of your chart. So Uranus being here for the next 7 years is going to be like a light being shined in a dark room, and flashes of awareness surrounding what you might have been carrying unconsciously might be coming into awareness. You can see old patterns and old ancestral material, old wounds here that might have been running in the background. And Uranus is going to be illuminating those with those flashes of lightning, which can feel strange, but honestly quite liberating to really see the wiring underneath the surface of certain things that have maybe subconsciously been driving you. This Gemini season invites you to spend some time alone intentionally with the spirit world, with the ancestral realm. It's not an isolating invitation, but really just creating some spaciousness for yourself to see what arises when you're not filling every moment with input, and really paying attention to the spirit realm, to what your own mind sounds like when it's not performing and when you're alone with yourself. The Venus-Jupiter conjunction in Cancer in June 9th is in your first house, though. And so this is a beautiful day, a moment of grace that lands directly on your sense of self. So again, uncovering what you're uncovering from the subconscious realms, with Uranus and the sun being in your 12th house, might feed into this middle of Gemini season quality of expansion and harmony in who you are. And you might feel more attractive or more abundant or just more like yourself than you have in a while. So know that you should receive that and you deserve it, and open yourself up to this sweetness that might land on June 9th. Then the Sagittarius full moon on May 31st is illuminating your 6th house. And the 6th house is the house ruled by Virgo, which is about daily life and service to others and health and habits and pets. And so it's a lot about routines, and the Sagittarius full moon brings in focus to the otherwise scattered energy of Gemini season and really asks what routine you are needing to honor, or if any routines might need to change in your life, so that you can be more aligned with the big picture of where it is you're headed. For Leo rising, Gemini rules your 11th house, which is the house of community, friendships, networks, hopes and dreams. Uranus is shaking up your social world for the next 7 years. Uranus will be really making some moves that are really about liberating you from stagnancy and helping you find your true people. So if you have any friendships that were held together by habit or sense of loyalty that didn't feel true or genuinely resonant to your life, those friendships and networks might be loosening, and new connections that light up your mind and your higher heart and your higher vision might be arriving over these next 7 years. With the Uranus cazimi in the beginning of Gemini season, you can think about around May 22nd and the days around that. If any people or new types of networks might have entered your life, just as a spark in the dark. Doesn't have to be anything major, but that might be something that stands out and builds over time. This Gemini season is a really potent moment to notice who you are in community, what your role you play in community, and also who you're in community with. And ask yourself whether that community is actually serving your evolution. The Uranus cazimi could, again, bring that surprising social invitation or just a flash of insight about a group that you're a part of. So pay attention to that in the beginning of the season. And then the new moon in Gemini on June 15th will be a powerful seeding moment for your community life. Talking about the same house, the 11th house. So that new moon could be a great time to plant seeds around collective vision, the types of friendships you want to welcome in, and your sense of belonging in general. What does it mean to belong? Spend some time contemplating that in the dark sky of that new moon. And then Venus will be entering Leo, your own sign, on June 13th. And that's a really lovely moment of homecoming, feeling that radiant Venusian energy of attraction and self-expression, just really feeling more in your own skin as the season of Gemini turns and Venus enters Leo. The Venus-Jupiter conjunction that's happening before that on June 9th in Cancer is in your 12th house. And so that's a good time to spend in solitude, in your own spiritual practice, connecting to your guides, and really attuning to the sweetness that exists in the hidden places within yourself. It's a beautiful time to honor your own interior life before Venus enters Leo, and then Jupiter will be entering Leo in about a month later in the summer. And so it's a beautiful time to attune to your inner world before you're kind of put on the spotlight and taking center stage with all of these new networks and friend groups that might be arriving through your Gemini house. Virgo rising. Gemini rules your 10th house, Virgo. So that's the house of career and public life, vocation, and your contribution to the world at large. So with Uranus moving through your 10th house over the next 7 years or so, this is going to transform how you show up in your work and your public identity. So what you do for a living or how you're seen or what you're building in the world is up for renovation. And so it's important to consider that it might not be a time to hold on to your old career, your old job, your old patterns of work, and see what types of opportunities are there for refreshing your work world and your world of public perception. This Gemini season, you might feel a strong pull towards a different direction professionally, or you might receive unexpected recognition or opportunity. And the cazimi that's happening on May 22nd, and the few days afterwards when Uranus meets the sun, so right in the beginning of Gemini season, this could really flash a light of illumination about your calling and what you were really put here to do on this planet. And that might be different than what you've been doing. So paying attention to new ideas surrounding your calling. The lunar nodes are currently in Pisces and Virgo. So the South node is in Virgo, which is your sign. And this is significant because it's asking us collectively, this nodal placement, to release an over-attachment to perfectionism or to codependency and service for the sake of service without thinking about yourself, and making yourself small in order to be useful. So this is in your first house, so it's really related to your sense of self and how that self has shown up in a perfectionistic way. And the world is asking you to release it. The universe is asking that to be held with a loose fist right now. The Uranus square to the nodes that's going to happen on June 12th is in your 10th house. And so it's going to create a moment of tension between Virgo and Pisces, your first and your 7th house, which is about yourself and your relationships. And then Uranus is going to come in and make a bit of a lightning bolt of energy surrounding how yourself, your relationships, and your public perception and career all interact with each other. So this might feel like a destabilizing moment, but it's one that's really moving you towards something truer, connecting your personal life with your public life. For Libra rising, Gemini rules your 9th house, and this is the house of philosophy, higher learning, long-distance travel, publishing, spirituality, meaning-making. And this is the house where you reach beyond your everyday world and ask yourself what your life is all about, big picture stuff. What do you believe? And Uranus is going to be here for the next 7 years in your 9th house. And it's going to be challenging and expanding the answers that you've held close. There might be a shocking reorientation about what you believe deep down and what the big picture looks like to you. This Gemini season, you might be drawn to study something new or to travel somewhere to another country, somewhere that'll shift your perspective radically, or to write or share ideas in a public way. This is the house of publishing, also the house of law. So the new moon in Gemini here on June 15th will be a beautiful moment to plant some seeds for your 9th house and really contemplate and set intentions around what you want to learn and explore and understand at a deeper level. The Sagittarius full moon before that on May 31st is highlighting your 3rd house, which is the house of communication and your local world, siblings, your neighborhood. So it's at this axis between your big picture beliefs and your local world. So there might be some conversation surrounding how you've discovered what is true to you in these small conversations and everyday observations that's now ready to be released and put into something published or something that's tied into higher education or kind of the larger picture. And then Venus enters Leo on June 13th, which lights up your 11th house, which is your social world and your community and your hopes and dreams. So something really warm and generous and juicy wants to move through your friendships and your collective world right now, which might be a beautiful place to start experimenting with some of these bigger new beliefs that are coming through to attune to your larger networks and see how these things land. Scorpio rising. For Scorpio rising, Gemini rules your 8th house. This is the house that's naturally ruled by Scorpio. So it is the house of transformation and shared resources, intimacy, the depth, the underworld, death and rebirth. It's a kind of plutonic house. And the 8th house is definitely your natural territory, Scorpio. It revolves around intensity and power dynamics and is not afraid of what's living in the shadows. So Uranus is going to be here over the next several years, bringing that lightning bolt of energy into that territory. So the next several years, and during this Gemini season as well, you might have some breakthroughs in your relationship to power and to shared resources. This is the house of other people's money. So money that is shared through inheritance or investments or debt or a partner's resources or an ex-partner's resources. This is something that might be highlighted or shaken up a bit by Uranus coming through. And it might just also reveal transformations and transmutations of being that are through a deeper level than the surface. So this isn't always the most comfortable Uranus transit to go through the 8th house, as it does expose things that have been in the underworld or belonging to a shared dynamic of intimacy. It's not just affecting you, but affecting other people as well. But for Scorpio rising, it might feel oddly familiar because you're no stranger to the underworld and you have a deep understanding of that place by nature. So this season, the Uranus Cazimi there in the 8th house could bring a flash of clarity about a deep transformation that you're in the middle of. And it's a good time to ask yourself or find a moment of clarity on what is shifting at the root level rather than the surface level. Mars and Pluto are making a square on May 25th that also touches your chart in the houses of home and work. And so there might be some tension between home and work, between the demands at home and between what your work world demands. And so there might be a sense of needing to let go or loosen the grip on the tension between those worlds. Then the new moon in Gemini is going to be a seeding moment for your 8th house. The new moon in Gemini is on June 15th. And it is a time of planting intentional seeds about what type of underworld transformation regarding your intimacy with life, your intimacy with other people, your intimacy with resources. Something new can happen here. And so the 15th of June is a great time to set intentions surrounding that. Sagittarius rising. Gemini rules your 7th house, and this is the house of partnerships, one-on-one partnerships, collaborations, business partnerships, contracts, marriage, open enemies as well. And so Uranus in your house here for the next 7 years is revolutionizing your one-on-one connections. So the type of partnership that you want and need might be changing, and what used to feel stabilizing might feel confining. And what used to feel shocking and unpredictable might start to feel a little more up your alley. So this Gemini season, as the sun meets Uranus in the first degrees of Gemini, pay close attention to what's happening on your partnership and closest relationship front, and also what they're mirroring to you about yourself. There's going to be a Sagittarius full moon on May 31st that falls across the sky from your 7th house in your 1st house. So this full moon will highlight the dynamic between your body and your sense of self and your presence and other people and your partnerships and how those are reflecting you. So this full moon is a moment of illumination around who you actually are individually, distinct from who you are in relationship to others. So it's a good time to contemplate who you are and what you know about yourself right now, and to release any people-pleasing techniques or strategies that you've had in order to return to your fullness of yourself. There's a Venus-Jupiter conjunction in Cancer on June 9th, and that is falling in your 8th house, which is a house of abundance through shared resources and intimacy and the places where you've joined yourself to another. The 8th house is all about how the roots of systems come together beneath the surface. And so having Jupiter expanding that area and Venus bringing a sense of what you value and a sense of harmony and sweetness to that house, there could be a moment of true financial or emotional bounty that arrives through your intimate relationships. The new moon in Gemini on June 15th. The new moon in Gemini on June 15th is a moment of setting intentions and planting seeds for your partnership life. That new moon's in your 7th house of collaborations and partnerships and one-on-one relationships. And so you can ask yourself on that new moon, what new types of dynamics or new understandings would you like to see begin? And plant some literal seeds surrounding that and see what grows out of it. For Capricorn rising, Gemini rules your 6th house. The 6th house is the house of daily life, routines, health, service, and all of the practices that you do that sustain your day-to-day. Uranus is entering the 6th house for the next 7 years and is shaking up your relationship to your routines and to your physical body, to your work life, to your domestic animals is another thing included here. And that can be completely liberating. The shakeup can change the way you do the daily grind, and just know that it can feel a little disruptive at first, but there might be, a need for a radical overhaul where your health could be calling for some kind of unconventional approach, or the way that you're working, the hours that you're putting in might be due for an upgrade. This Gemini season, I would say, take seriously any insights about your daily life that feel surprising or unexpected. And if you've been stuck in a routine that just feels like you're going through the motions, think about if it's actually holding you back and what kinds of new energies you can bring into the picture. Think about how you're treating your health and your diet, your nutrition, things like that, and see if there's anything that feels interesting to you now that you might not have considered to be a way forward in the past. That Venus-Jupiter conjunction in Cancer on June 9th is lighting up your 7th house, which is the house of partnerships and one-on-one collaborations, business partnerships, relationships, marriage. And so Venus and Jupiter coming together there is a really beautiful conjunction of the planet of expansion and growth meeting up with the planet of what we value and romance and beauty. And so if you've been feeling a little bit of lackluster in your relationship, this could be a really beautiful moment of restoration with generosity flowing into your partnerships on June 9th. Then the new moon in Gemini on June 15th is a moment of planting seeds for your daily routines and really bringing in some consciousness to what you've learned from Uranus activating that part of your chart, asking what habit or practice or way of showing up with the small details of your daily existence wants to begin. So just simple things that make big differences. For Aquarius rising, Gemini rules your 5th house of creativity, self-expression, children, romance, play, and all of the things that you do for pure joy. Uranus here over the next several years is electrifying your creative life and your whole orientation towards self-expression and how you play and what you make in the world is up for some transformation, some revelations regarding that part of life. And this might, again, as Uranus always is, it could feel a bit disrupting, but it can also be quite liberating. And I think this could be a very exciting transit for you over the next several years because you might be drawn to creative art forms that you've never tried before, or you might fall unexpectedly in love, or your own relationship to your own joy might be shifting and changing a bit. So welcoming insights into new types of creative play into your life during the beginning parts of Gemini season here and throughout the next 7 years. And it's time to tap into your self-expression. There's a new moon in Gemini that is a great time for seeding this self-expression, planting seeds about your creative life, about new projects or new ways of romancing the world, new ways of playing with the world. That new moon in Gemini is on June 15th, and so it's a great time to plant some seeds for your creative life. And then Venus enters Leo on June 13th, and this is a time where your 7th house of partnerships will be lit up. So having Venus in Leo, this planet of love and romance and harmony on Leo's kind of radiant stage is about bringing that type of maybe, a little public display of affection in your relationships, a little bit more putting your relationships on the center stage during this season of Gemini. For Pisces rising, Gemini rules your 4th house of home, family, roots, ancestries, and at the foundation of your entire life. So Uranus will be here in Gemini for the next 7 years, and this is going to be a time of some disruption, but ultimately liberating qualities into your relationship about your home and roots and where you come from. So the stories that you've inherited and carried with you about family and home and security and belonging are up for revision. They're at a time when you can start to look at them with that flash of lightning that Uranus brings. This Gemini season, pay attention to what's moving in your home life and in your sense of roots and belonging. This is a time where things might feel a bit unpredictable or unsettled, but the disruption typically is pointing towards a more authentic foundation. The lunar nodes, the nodes of the moon, are currently in Pisces and Virgo. So the north node is in your home sign, and the south node is in the opposite sign from you in your 7th house. And so This is a time to really reflect on how the aspirations of the larger collective align with your deeper sense of selfhood and sense of being, interconnection with others, giving up on perfectionism for more of a spiritual synthesis. And so that's something that's being highlighted as the nodes finish up their time in Pisces and Virgo. And then Uranus is going to be squaring the nodes on June 12th. And that could feel like a bit of tension coming up surrounding your personhood and your aspirations surrounding how you show up in the world and how you show up in your relationships. The Gemini will be squaring both of those nodes from your 4th house of home. And so this could bring up on June 12th a little bit about how yourself, your partnerships, and your home and family life need a little bit of attention, the relationship between the three of those. And it's ultimately asking you to move toward the new version of home that wants to exist for you. The Venus-Jupiter conjunction in Cancer lights up your 5th house of creativity and love and joy and play. Venus-Jupiter in the 5th house is a super abundant transit of the year for your creative and romantic life. So let yourself play and have fun and receive pleasure. This is on June 9th. And yeah, it can bring a little bit of lightness to the month that might feel a little bit disruptive when it comes to home and family. So circle June 9th on your calendar. It's a beautiful day for creativity. And then on June 15th, the new moon in Gemini will really be a seeding moment. So you will have come through this Venus-Jupiter conjunction in your 5th house of creativity that might lead you to have a deeper understanding about your home and family life and what you desire, what kind of new intentions you want to plant for that part of your life, and what new foundations are you ready to set in motion. So thank you all for being here for the Gemini season horoscopes. This is my first experiment with the horoscopes per season at this larger context. So let me know how they land for you. Let me know if any of this feels relevant for you. They're just short and sweet little sound bites and tidbits about the upcoming month based on your rising sign. But take what resonates and leave the rest. And if you'd like to get more information about the fullness of Gemini season, where Gemini shows up in the body, the human design of Gemini season, Gemini and the life cycle, you can check out my part 1 podcast for Gemini season 2026. And I also have a Gemini workbook, guidebook with some somatic practices and writing prompts that I've put together. So it's about a 40-page PDF. It's related to Gemini, so a great gift for the Geminis in your life, or just something to have on your shelf of your astrological knowledge as it ties into the seasons. So thanks for being here again. Happy Gemini season. May you have a beautifully pollinating, revelatory sense of beauty and interconnection during this season ahead. My name's Allison. You can find me at hearthandspiral.com, where I offer astrology and human design readings, as well as coaching relating to astrology and human design as it ties in with creative practice and somatics. I have a coaching offering called Tending the Hearth. It's all about coming back to your heart space and utilizing the maps of astrology and human design for placing yourself in the larger context, and then coming back in with the practices of embodiment and creative expression to center yourself in your own hearth. So you can reach out to me at Allison at Hearth and Spiral for more information on those offerings, or book a reading with me at hearthandspiral.com. If you're listening to this podcast out there in the world of Apple or Spotify, I would love a review or just a star rating from you. It really helps get the word out. And if you'd like to receive this podcast in your inbox, I recommend subscribing on Substack at livingthespiral.com. I also have additional articles on Substack where I walk the wheel of the year through the human design gates on my Mandala 64 walk, and additional big picture episodes and articles about what's happening in the skies in these unprecedented times of paradigm shift. So I look forward to continuing to engage with you more as the seasons continue through the spirals of time. And I appreciate your support and your listenership. It's been a true pleasure to be here with you today. See you next time.